It's a movement. We're talking about unity. We're talking about unity. So we're aimed to taking down the system of race by educating, enlightening, informing, and positively debating with those who have counterviews.
We've got Richard Happy. Richard's got COVID, of course. He wasn't here last week, and so he's got another week to be off. But as soon as Richard gets back, then we're going to be ready to roll again. But I want to send out a shout out to Richard. He's recovering, doing great. He got the cure, and so that's what's happening. All right, so I want to make sure you got my audio. My audio hadn't been. Okay, so we're good to go. All right, so. We're looking forward to Richard coming back. We're excited to have our guest. He's from the Kingdom Group. I'm going to introduce him later in the show. But before we do that, I want to give you a little commentary about what's happening and what's going to happen in the days following this election. So we've done all the hoopla. We had all the things that have happened prior to the election. The last 4 years have been tumultuous. Some people would say divisive. They say we're divided as a country. And I'd say we've kind of been divided for a long time as a country. And so let's talk about some plans of how we're going to implement change so that we become more united as a country. Besides the fact that I've got a unity movement, which I've had for a couple of years now, and my guest coming into the show is also at a unity movement. So you've got a lot of people screaming unity, unity, unity. You even got some of the politicians screaming unity. But we haven't been able to really bring that to fruition. So we're going to have to make sure that that kind of happens post-election. So I want to give you a little commentary about how you can make that happen in your personal life. You might have relatives. You might have people that you see every day, friends, who you all are now at odds because of this election. One of you might be Biden, one of you might be Trump. One of you might be Harris, one of you might be Pence. So you got any reason, there are a number of reasons that you might have division happening. So after the election happens, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. The key to how we get beyond this is for those who win to show some grace. Now, the reality is you can do that in your relationships every day. You can be the type of person who's always showing some grace. And what does it mean when I show grace? It means that I can sympathize. I can empathize. I can relate to the position that you're in. And I try to do that. But let me tell you, if you have not built up the relationships prior to this, it's going to be impossible to do. Because it's based on relationship. Let me give you an example. If I have had a great friend, and in some cases when you're married, it might be your spouse, someone that you genuinely care about, someone that you genuinely love and care for. If they are on the opposite side of this issue, the election issue, and let's say they're for Biden and you're for Trump, when you lose, if Trump loses and Biden wins, you're not nearly as upset. Why are you not as upset? Because that person that you care for deeply won. So the key is, how much can we as people empathize with other people and say, well, I didn't get what I wanted, but this person I cared for got what they wanted. Then there's a different level of care, because if all the people that I know wanted the same person that I wanted, I don't have any other relationships with people on the other side, then when I lose, then we all lose. It's almost like hedging your bet in relationships. You know, you have people on both sides. And I just happen to be a guy, which is, I guess, is the reason I would do the unity movement, because I've had people on the right, I have people on the left who've always been, that I've been in great relationships with. And so regardless of which side I might find myself on, because I care about them deeply, I win when they win. I lose when they lose. And so that kind of mediates your feelings about victory. It kind of mediates your feelings about loss or mitigates them, because I don't lose nearly as much as when I have a friend, someone close to me won. It's kind of like saying if my dad was Bill Gates or if my dad won the lottery, well, if I lost my job and went out of money, it doesn't matter because I got relationships, because I'm connected with these other people. So that's what we're going to have to do after this election. So post-election, think about how you can implement that in your personal life. And can you do that? Can you look at people who disagreed with you, people who voted for the other candidate, and say, well, I'm happy that you are now happy, that you got what you want? Because at the end of the day, what we're going to have to do is we have to come together anyway to create solutions. See, what happens in America, which I think why America is so great, is because I think there's a great balance between the fact that we've got far left and we've got far right, that we've got liberals, conservatives, that we've got Republicans, Democrats, because that means whoever you are, you can fall anywhere on that spectrum. You might not be either, and you might call yourself an independent, or you might call yourself a libertarian. You might be outside of all of that. But in America, the cool thing is all of those views count. And that's what our country is designed to do. We're designed so that all of those views count. Our problem is when we try to negate some views that are different than ours and we come up with a solution, because then we only represent a certain segment of our population. And what we are designed to do as a country is, in our unity and our diversity, is come up with solutions that meet the needs of all in the country. And we haven't been able to do that because we've been so divided. So the answer is not to reject those who disagree with you and voted the other way. The thing is to embrace them, bring them closer and say, okay, let me hear why you chose to vote for this person. Let me hear your view, whatever. And then show them that respect, because then they're going to show you the respect and say, okay, they wanted to hear why I supported that person. I'm going to show them why I want to hear them and why they supported the person they supported. That's amazing. Because once you can do that and begin hearing people, because let me tell you what most people do these days. You a Trumpster? I don't want to hear it. You for Biden? You must be crazy. That's where we are. And nobody says, well, let's talk about it. Let me hear your views. And then I'd like you to hear mine. Let's sit and let's dialogue about it in a rational manner. Let's have a conversation. That's why dialogue is so important. We got to realize that those are humans on the other side. You know, they're not the name-calling, disgusting people that we make them out to be because they have a different viewpoint. And so that's where we've got to go as a country. And so in my commentary, that's what I want to tell you to do this morning. This is election day. The hype is up. Let me tell you, the last few days I've driven around Texas. I went out to Abilene just this past weekend. And so I came from Abilene back through Dallas, Fort Worth, and came down or whatever. This country, let me just tell you, it is explosive. I understand why we're going to have record-setting election numbers, because I saw a convoy, a Trump convoy. It was just crazy. I was like, these people took time out to do this. It was like an unscheduled parade of all parades. So I was like, man, people are really into this election, because with all of that, Biden is leading statistically in the polls. And so that means he's got as much hype as Trump does, which means, yeah, we're going to have record turnout. Everybody's kind of into this. And so the hype is high. What I want to be high is the number of people who have decided to, after the election, respond in grace and connect with people that they disagree with. And let's begin working on some solutions. Let's begin with unity. And let's begin seeing how we can make this happen together. All right. So that's my commentary for today. This is what I really want you to do. Hey, and I got a great guest. I got the perfect guest to have, given this is happening, given this is the day when we actually do the election, because my guest, and I'm going to have my boy Vince over there on the side prop up a picture. I sent him a picture. You got that picture ready? Pop that up as I talk, and then we'll go to break and bring him back. But when I was traveling in 2019, went out around the country and visited 112 cities. My first stop was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And in the picture, you see me standing here with my buddy Elmo Winters. This was the day that I met him. And so this is my first time meeting, and we've been in contact ever since. And so it's just been a great, loving relationship where we have decided that we know what unity is about and we need to make it happen. So we've got some plans. We're going to talk about that today, and it's going to be so important because we are talking about how we can create unity. We're going to talk about some initiatives he's got, initiatives I've got, initiatives we got together, and we're going to make this thing happen. So I'm glad to have him on the show. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a break, go to commercial. After we come back from that commercial break, we're going to introduce our guest there, Elmo, and we're going to have a great show. Stay tuned for that. It's going to happen right after this break.
Every sports fan knows that the last few minutes can change the game. Texas has had record voter turnout, but it's not over yet. Voting is not a spectator sport. You have the power to change the game. We need everyone to get off the bench and get involved. We can't afford 4 more years of this administration. Get out and vote this Tuesday, November 3rd. Paid for by Texas Black Democratic PAC.
A retired Marine and former school teacher is spending his days on the road promoting unity.
His platform is to erase race, and he's trying to do that by traveling the country, visiting 100 cities, spreading his message one conversation at a time.
I was born and raised in Waller County, Texas, just northwest of Houston. As a child of the 60s civil rights era, I lived in a city that was probably 100% black at the time, and that city, Prairie View, Texas, had an educational background that far exceeded the national average. Because of this uncommon occurrence, I grew up lacking the sense of inferiority that many black people experience as a result of segregation and the remnants of the Jim Crow era. In Prairie View, the smartest and most able and capable people the children of that city saw daily were always black. After integration in 1969, I grew up with friends from a variety of ethnic backgrounds, and this continued to expand as I went to college, and my circle of deep relationships continued to grow with football teammates from various parts of Texas and the country, and then expanded even more after I joined the United States Marine Corps, where my relationships began to include foreign cultures and people with whom I never envisioned communicating. Today, after having visited and lived in the continents of Asia, Africa, and Europe, I am convinced that we are all far more alike than we could ever realize. Something has hindered that realization for others. Here in the United States of America, we have been plagued for hundreds of years with a concept called race. This concept would have us believe that we are fundamentally very different and our skin color makes us so. Though anthropology, sociology, and medical journals continually refute this, many Americans continue to harbor the erroneous beliefs associated with race. This is what I'm here to change. Hello, I am Carlin Charleston, the Executive Director of E.R.A.S.E. We are a 501c4 nonprofit organization designed to remove race from our society and unite people across all demographics and bring them into the novel reality that we are all quite differently the same. That phrase may sound contradictory in itself, but it really makes sense. Once we understand our common origins from whence we all originate, then it becomes much more interesting to see how differently we have evolved in our geographic regions as one people. E.R.A.S.E. began the work of unifying our country when I embarked upon a 112-city tour last June. Driving the Unity van from coast to coast and from north to south, the thrill of visiting the 48 contiguous states and meeting people I would have never met otherwise was simply amazing. From Baton Rouge to Boston and from Philadelphia to Phoenix, I became more American every day as I met the people that make up this great country, and that is where I want to take you. This is city number 76.
Shaking hands, visiting people and places, striving for unity as a human race.
It has really been phenomenal. Number one, to travel the country and go to different places in our country and meet the people is what most Americans need to do.
He said there have been surprising interactions, even poignant moments, stopping along sites of historic importance like the Liberty Bell and Harriet Tubman's home. He'll make his final stop in December, but his work will be far from done. Carlin's life is the American Unity Movement, and he's hopeful one day soon people truly won't be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
That's my vision, that we have people, and we can then respect people and live with people. We're welcome back to our special election edition of Talk About Unity, the Race show where we talk about unity. And I'm really excited now because you see there on my screen, I've got my brother of all brothers, my guest for today's show. He's the executive director of the Kingdom Group, and I'd like to call him not just Elmo Winters, Mr. Elmo Winters. I like to call him Dr. Elmo Winters because he carries that kind of weight when he's talking. So I want to welcome him to the show, my brother, my friend, Mr. Dr. Elmo Winters. Welcome to the show, Talk About Unity.
Thank you, my brother. What a blessing. What a blessing to be here with you. I'm enjoying what you are already talking about, so thank you for having me on.
Hey, we're definitely glad to have you. Definitely glad to have you today on this, what I call a special day of days, because of course we've got the election, of course, happening. And so, I know that both of us have these, what we call unity movements. And we're going to talk about that later in the show. We're going to talk about your unity, my unity, and what it means to us. But one of the things that I want to talk about and have you talk about up front is, what are your expectations for our country post-election concerning unity, concerning, regardless of what happens, what are your expectations for the way the country is going to look?
Well, Brother Carlson, as I prayed this morning, I asked God to just have his hand on our country. I am concerned. I'm not sure that it matters who wins as far as the aftermath tomorrow and the rest of the week and so on. I believe there's going to be so much anger on both sides. I'm praying that cooler heads will prevail. I pray that people will do as you have said earlier. Let's try to come together and be one, be unified, regardless of whether our candidate won or not. The goal here is that we need to be a unified America. That's what's so important.
Okay. All right. So now I want to go back to the beginning. Let's talk about you and me. All right. So, because
unfortunately,
I think
my
that's
brother,
a lot of amazing stuff from the beginning about what's really going to happen. Because in my commentary when I started the show today, that you weren't in yet, but I talked about how we're going to have to begin to show each other grace, because evidently one side is going to win today and one side is going to lose. Now, that can be an opportunity for unity, or it can be an opportunity for more division. And so those who quote unquote win, and that's the thing it's sad that we even think in the context of there are going to be winners and losers, because there should be simply just winners, and that's like winners, not like Elmo Winners, but winners as in victorious. All right. So there should
exactly.
be winners. And I think a lot of that I talk about comes from the fact that we don't have enough relationships with people on both sides. We've only got relationships on one side. So many of us are just, we sectored off into our relationships. So we're all this or we're all that. And so I think that is kind of our problem. But I want to hear you talk about, though, your brand of unity and what the Kingdom Group represents and what you're doing there, just for the knowledge of the people, because I know and I want them to hear that. So let me hear you talk about that for a little bit.
Well, I heard you say a very special word, relationships, and that's what we focus on. That's what we aim for. We're convinced, my brother, that we must develop very strong relationships that transcends ethnicities, races, cultural, even this political party, and so on scenario. We need to start reaching across the aisle and unify with people often who don't look like us or who think like us, whose culture is not the same. That's what's so very important. We at the Kingdom Group, that's what we focus on. And I want to say very clearly, our focus is not trying to alleviate racism or all of the issues surrounding race. Our goal is to foster unity. And that takes on a whole lot of different views, because we find ourselves divided everywhere today. So our goal, what we do at the Kingdom Group, is host events that help people come together who normally would not sit at the same table or even have conversations with one another in an effort to listen and also to be heard. That's what's important to us.
Yeah, really good, really good stuff. Really good stuff. All right, so I'm going to really get deep into some of these other questions we have. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to take a commercial break here, and so I'm going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to be right back, and we're going to cover some more of this with Elmo Winters here on Talk About Unity today. So stand by.
Between the ages of 0 and 5, a child's mind is very impressionable. Researchers call it the theta brainwave. This low frequency is the state of consciousness between the conscious and subconscious worlds. In this state, the mind is capable of deep and profound learning, healing, and growth. There is a subconscious loop that's created during these early years. Who you believe you are has been downloaded based on experiences that you have had. A bad experience could create fears and limitations. Do you love who you are? Do you believe in yourself? The reality is that you can't control your childhood. All you can do is interpret it. You can choose to see your good and your value. Try this experiment. Project forward. See yourself at 80 years old. Now you have lived a lifetime. What advice would you have for your younger self? What risks would you have taken? What relationships would you have avoided? Did you celebrate life? Did you allow yourself to feel, to be present? Your 80-year-old self would tell you to not live in fear, to have faith that things will work out, that all you have to do is persist until you succeed. Your 80-year-old self would tell you to stay healthy, to take care of your body. And it would ultimately tell you to share your gifts with the world. We work our whole lives to support our families. With one accident or illness, it can all be gone in an instant. Now there's a smart, affordable way to protect your family. Go to findhealthbenefits.com and discover low-cost life insurance for as little as $2 per month. Add to that a tax-deferred annuity that can help you protect your assets and grow your money for retirement. Learn more. Go to findhealthbenefits.com. or call 877-235-6094. A critical illness can strike without warning and wipe out your life savings. In fact, it's the #1 reason for bankruptcy. Find Health Benefits offers an affordable solution. Get up to $50,000 if you get cancer, stroke, or a heart attack, giving you the peace of mind to focus on getting better while the plan helps you to pay your bills and medical expenses. Learn more. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877-235-6094. 66% of seniors spend more time shopping for cable TV than Medicare plans. Most say because it's just too confusing. Laws change every year. The wrong plan could cost you thousands and prevent you from seeing the doctors you want. Introducing findhealthbenefits.com. Save time, save money, see specialists without referrals. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877-235-6094 for this informative brochure.
Society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio, because truth still matters.
Are you a small business owner concerned about the downturn in the economy? Top business leaders like Mattress Mac and Warren Buffett will tell you that now is the time to promote your business more than ever. People need your services. Your business needs an edge. Learn about special advertising packages for small businesses right here on Edge Radio. Find out more, give us a call at 281-744-0446. That's 281-744-0446. Edge, because truth still matters.
And we're back with our guests, Elmo Winters of the Kingdom Group, here on Talk About Unity today. And I want to go back and let's get some more about that Kingdom Group origins, because then I'll draw the connection between how we met, because that's important in itself. And then we'll go forward, and then we'll talk about some plans for unity and how it's going to be so important after this election. So give us a little bit more of that, Elmo, please.
Back in 2016, our city, Baton Rouge, was rocked by the shooting and actual killing of a young black man by a white police officer. And that kind of shook our city. For several months, we went through unrest, protesting, all these type of things, but there was really no real solution. And after we met several times with local ministry leaders that we knew, we decided to start having a meeting to just bring people together. White people, black people, people who are of Asian or Hispanic ethnicities, it didn't really matter. And started off with men having a breakfast together. And in February of 2017, we actually hosted our very first men's unity breakfast. And since that time, we have been hosting these events every month for nearly 4 years now. And we are seeing just unbelievable results, not only with the change of attitude by people who normally would not come together, but relationships are being built. And that is our goal. So
Wow.
we're thankful.
Yeah, now that's amazing, because you look at some of the things that have happened since then. Because you when you say 2017, you're way ahead of the curve. Not only just the George Floyd curve, you're way ahead of a lot of things, and it was born out of a bad situation, many of which we still have now. And so you're an intervention to some of the negative things that were happening then, that happened at the time, and probably have staved off many more that could have happened because of your intervention into the community there. And so that's a very good lead for an example of what needs to happen in the rest of society. That's really good.
Well, we are excited about the fact that in Baton Rouge, our little city, although we had that incident happen, we never had any rioting, never had any looting, burning, or anything of that nature. I'm convinced that a lot of this has been kind of headed off by having people come together. And, Carlin, I could give testimony after testimony of guys who have come from very racist background, who've had an opportunity to sit with others who they were told, don't have anything to do with them because they're like us. And these men have given testimony about how, after sitting with some men and learning their story, that they see things different today. And this is what we're promoting at the present time.
That's really great, really great. And yeah, when you talk about 2017, because it was in 2018 where I stopped teaching and decided I was going to do this unity movement. And then it was 2019, and I want to connect that to when we met. And the picture I showed before you got on, I showed a picture of us standing by the van there when I came through Baton Rouge in June of 2019. And we had this idea, and I didn't really know the depth of your organization and what you were doing at the time. But as we've grown through this thing, I've begun to see and be involved in the unity work that you're doing. And so much so that we've now set up what the Kingdom Group is doing with the Men's Unity Breakfast, and we're nationalizing that and making that a national platform. So can you talk about that a little bit? And I'll throw some pieces in too, but because of what I've seen and as I travel the country. And so when I talk about this being a program that we're going to nationalize, it means in the context, it means I've been around the country. I've seen other programs, and I thought this one was the one that would be the best in staving off some of the unrest and some of the division that we have in our country. So can you talk about that Unity Breakfast and how you came to that thing as being the tool that it is now?
Well, thank you. Again, you, among several others, have told us, even after looking across the nation, that this program that we're utilizing is a very unique one that is producing results. That's what we want to do. And what I call what happened to us in 2019 was a divine connection. And God brought us together so that we could spread his work throughout the nation. And we have really prepared ourselves for what is about to happen. Let me say this, Carlin, as we look so negatively at the COVID-19 pandemic as being, this has been such a bad thing for us. It has been a tool that God has used to get the message out about what we're doing. Every month we continue to have these men's unity breakfasts, but we went virtual. And as a result of going virtual, we were able to actually spread our meetings throughout the nation. Even on one occasion, we went international as we had a dear rabbi from Israel who joined us. So people got an opportunity to enjoy and get a knowledge about what we're doing. And then the calls started coming in where people are saying, we're interested in seeing if this will work in our area.
That's really great. And so when we, and you've talked about some of the testimonies you've got of things that have happened. Let's project down 2-3 years. Let's project what this country or what your movement looks like after 2 to 3 years and our work to nationalize it. How do you envision that? What does it look like? I mean, if it works out perfectly in your mind, because what is that going to look like for us?
Well, we keep in mind that what we're doing is a grassroots effort, so we don't anticipate a wholesale change of individuals throughout the nation, but we anticipate pockets of individuals throughout the nation, various states, who are coming together on a weekly basis or monthly basis, who are having a meal together, but more importantly, they are learning to trust one another. They're learning to respect one another. They're experiencing the various cultures. They're embracing the differences, and then the relationships are being built. Families are starting to do things together, and we believe that this is going to happen throughout our nation. And it's remarkable that God would use something as simple, Carlin, as a men's breakfast. Just guys coming together, having some bacon and some eggs and so on.
That's great. And I think that's the problem, maybe, that it is simple and we've made it so complicated. I have this one friend on Facebook, and he tells me all the time whenever some of these things happen, I go, this is not that hard. And he gets upset because I say it's not that hard. What it
Mm,
takes is
mm-hmm.
willingness. What it takes is courageousness from people
Yes.
to step out and say, let's do this. It takes courage. And
Yes.
so we just got to make that happen. And I think the key thing that you said there is that it's grassroots.
Yes.
It's grassroots,
Yes.
which means I think what people are looking for, they're looking at LeBron James, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they're looking
Mm-hmm.
at our elected officials, they're looking at our
Yes.
celebrities, they're looking at all these
Yes.
people and saying, what are they doing for this effort? It doesn't matter what they're doing. The question is, what are you doing? What am I
Absolutely.
doing? And let's make this
Absolutely.
happen. And so that's why the grassroots is so cool. And because I can tell you, the very first time I went to the Unity Breakfast in Baton Rouge, when it was still, that was before COVID. The first
Mm-hmm.
time that I went, it was amazing just to see. And I was just amazed. I mean, I'll remember, I already had the American Unity Movement happening. So when I say
Mm-hmm.
that I was amazed, then that's another level because I've been talking unity, I'd been preaching unity, I'd been going around the
Mm-hmm.
country with this unity movement. But what I saw there was it was unity on steroids, you
Yes.
know. And
Yes.
that's the thing.
Yes.
It wasn't big and flashy. It wasn't all
No.
this, but it consisted of man to man, person to
Mm-hmm.
person, looking at each
Mm-hmm.
other and saying, "You're human. I'm human. Let's intersect. Let's integrate our lives." You
Yes.
know,
I
and
agree.
that's some
I
amazing
agree.
stuff. And so I think it really is basic. And so that's really good. And the fact that that we're going to have that on a national platform so that this
Yes.
happens on a regular basis is where it's going to start. And that's why I think the key thing is, just as you've been doing this now for almost 4 years, that we have to understand that these problems and this division that is fostered in our society didn't happen overnight. The
Absolutely.
solution will not happen overnight, but it will take
Absolutely.
regular interaction, which is what you're doing in the unity group with the kingdom group. That regular interaction that's going to make it happen. So that's really cool. All right, so
Absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the theory behind actually what's going on here because we keep hearing this term and everybody keeps saying together. I hear this word together more than anything. We're going to do this thing together. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
whether
Mm-hmm.
Biden says it, I hear Trump saying it. So both sides, they have their brand of togetherness. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but with both of the sides and those sides focused right now, of course, like I said in the commentary, focused on winning, I don't see us really fostering in this country any that sense of togetherness. All right,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that has to do with what are the things that we are going to accomplish together. Now we're talking about unity, and that's very good in theory. But
Mm-hmm.
when I think about unity, I think of it from the kind of like the Marine Corps boot camp viewpoint. And the thing that made us unify was that we had shared pain. We
Correct.
had shared
Yeah.
that drill instructor
Yeah.
ensured that we had shared pain. So that caused us
Yes.
to kind of unify.
Yes.
And so I think
Yes.
in America, there while we're doing our theory of unity and bringing people together, what do you see as some of those things that are the big things that we're going to be able to do together? They talk about this togetherness. What are some of the big things that maybe are, do you think that there are things that we can do that bring that sense of unity? Because there are some big things that we as Americans can achieve together.
Yes. I'm convinced right now there are a few things we need to really focus on if we're going to unify. First of all, I tell people we must be willing to be intentional. We have to prepare ourselves to come out of our comfort zones, come from out of the things we are normally around or in, and be willing to again cross the aisle, cross the track, cross the neighborhood, cross whatever you have to put yourself in a position so that you can hear somebody else's story. I believe they used to call it walking a mile in my shoes and that type of thing. But even before intentionality, there's a thing that and when we teach our courses on this, we talk to people about how they need to overcome ignorance. And I'm not calling a person dumb. I'm saying there are blind spots and there are things that they have been led to believe over the years based on myths, stereotypes, lies. And we grow up to believe those things. And it's not until we actually experience people of other cultures, other races, if I'll use that word, and so on, that we realize it's not true. And then once that happens, Carlin, you move into an area of awareness. I believe they're calling it politically correctly now, being awake or awoke or what have you. We accept the fact that, yeah, there has been issues, and I will intentionally work to not be a part of the problem, but to be a part of the solution. And then beyond that point, you start to build community, start to build relationships, you have fellowship, and so on.
Really good, really good. You talk about, yeah. So what is the difference between what we're talking about when we talk about intentional integration and working with people? What's the difference between that and this concept that they have on the other side of being woke?
Well, you talked about it a moment ago. We all can say the right words, but it's not until we get into practical applications of the right action. I mean, doing those things. I'm now aware of the fact that all white people do not hate black people. So I need to operate within the realm of that knowledge. I understand that there are a lot of black people who are very sensitive about things such as the rebel flag and so on. I need to operate within the realm of that knowledge. I need not to pretend like there are things that people are just pretending to be hurting over. There's some really hurt going on, and we need to all be willing to walk into that place of pain for someone else and ease the pain. First of all, become knowledgeable it, address it, and move forward.
So because you talked about that and how the stereotypes that people may have had about white people, and there are stereotypes, of course, that exist about black people. And so when you take those polar concepts of people saying white people are racist and other side saying black people do this thing or black people are this way, how do we, as we get rid of the ignorance, how does that manifest itself in those relationships? How are those conversations? Or because some people think in the view of how we get beyond that, some people are saying, I heard a guy tell me that white people have never had to consider race because they never considered them as part of any one of the races. And I suggested, well, maybe that's the issue. Maybe we shouldn't either. Maybe we shouldn't either. So how do we take those two different ends, stereotypes on both ends, and get rid of, and say, with your objective of getting rid of the ignorance, does that mean we don't talk about it, or do we address it to get rid of it? So I think that's the question.
I believe we have to talk about it. I believe we need to address it and not have pretend like there's not an issue. I need to find out what causes my brother harm and what hurts another, with the concern of correcting that or healing that or helping him or her to understand. Let me give you a case in point. We have a group that we are teaching a study in and this group is in the southern part of our state, and they're predominantly Caucasian. And I started teaching a lesson there a month ago and just kind of introduced it. And they begged me, please come back and do the second part so I could help them overcome the issues that they have been dealing with for a while. And I remember giving an illustration of how one of the guys in the group has made tremendous strides in this area we're talking about, Carl, and in that when he sent a text out to the whole group and others inviting them, he introduced me as Pastor Elmo, Brother Elmo, and my brother, my friend. But never did he say a word in that text to, I don't know, maybe 10, 15, 20 people, anything about my race or ethnicity. He never said my African American brother or my black brother. He said my brother. And we are at that level in our relationship. Do we see the difference? Absolutely. But does it matter? Not at all.
Really good stuff. Sounds like you're on my erase tip. All right. That's what I'm liking. It sounds like erase. All right. So really good stuff. And we're going to talk about some more of that as we come back after the break on Talk About Unity. I got my guest here, Elmo Winters from the Kingdom Group, and we'll be right back after this message.
Every sports fan knows that the last few minutes can change the game. Texas has had record voter turnout, but it's not over yet. Voting is not a spectator sport. You have the power to change the game. We need everyone to get off the bench and get involved. We can't afford 4 more years of this administration. Get out and vote this Tuesday, November 3rd. Paid for by Texas Black Democratic PAC.
And we're back to talk about unity, and I'm honored to have my guest today, my friend, my brother, and as I call him, the Dr. Elmo Winters of the Kingdom Group out of Baton Rouge. Tell you what, in Baton Rouge, you go to Baton Rouge, you can, with the people I know there, you can get you some nice Cajun food there. So, every time I go there, somebody's giving me some boudin, or they're giving me some gumbo, and that's the kind of stuff that happens in Baton Rouge. So besides Elmo, my brother there, I can always go there for the food. All right, so glad to have you. Now, when we finish, we were talking about some of these stereotypes that exist that have left people willfully, and we'd say willfully blind, and more specifically, ignorant of other people groups. And so we've got this election that's going to happen today. I wonder what your view is on what is the role that organizations that have been, we'd say, on the polar extremes, on the fringes, like Black Lives Matter, and even some of the alt-right groups, those groups. What is going to be their role, what do you think, after the election? And I guess a lot of that would be contingent on who you think is going to win. What do you think is going to happen in our country with those type of groups in the coming years?
Well, Carlin, I'm very troubled to even think about what's going to happen going forward. I see groups like Black Lives Matter with this false initiative, a narrative that they're promoting, rather, to be so divisive. I know so many Caucasians who are so fearful of being considered a racist because they don't support Black Lives Matter. I see so many people of color who support because they believe that our lives should matter. And the problem with all of these extreme groups is that they do more to polarize all of us than they do to bring us together. We are working to bring people together. That's why our vision is all about, our mission is all about tearing down barriers that divide and building bridges that unite.
Wow. And as we know, that's what's got to happen. And so, well, do you think if we have if Trump wins again, and most people say he motivates the alt-right or the far right or the those people, do you see that creating more division if that in fact happens?
I don't necessarily see so. I think that it's probably easier for those extreme white supremacist group to connect to him. I don't fully understand that, but I must admit, Carlin, when you look at the accomplishments of Donald Trump for the minority communities, I do not understand often what some of the things people say even can take root. I mean, he's done so much, I believe, for African American communities.
Well, and I've got a blog post that I put out there about narratives, and the narratives, and I make the point that narratives don't have to be true; they just have to be told. you know.
Yeah.
And so I think you
Yeah.
got that has happened, that is spread. And so people rarely look at the real facts and they listen to
Correct.
the narratives. And who
Yeah.
controls the narratives? Sometimes it's the media, sometimes it's
Yeah.
the billionaires, millionaires. They
Mhm.
control the
Mhm.
narratives. And so it's not
Mhm.
really the truth, but it's what I've heard. And that's
Mhm.
why it's so important when people tell their story. Every time you hear a story, it's an anecdotal story. This happened. This
Mhm.
might be one out of 1,000 people that this happened, but I'm going to tell this one story, and it supposedly represents a narrative, but that narrative as a whole might not even be true. So we're kind of caught there. And so I think it's people like you, Elmo, with the Kingdom Group doing what you're doing, Men's Unity Breakfast, that's going to make the difference as we go forward. And I definitely hope to be a part of that. So let's talk about our intersection and what we plan on doing, or as we nationalize this. So explain to the listeners how this is going to happen. You and I have talked about it some, and this will continue to be fleshed out as we connect
Mhm.
up and make this happen. But I'm the guy
Mhm.
who travels everywhere, goes everywhere, looks to do everything everywhere. How am I going to
Amen.
do that with the Men's Unity Breakfast?
Well, I consider you to be our mobility partner, in that you are mobile. You're out there. You travel state to state, and our goal is for you to take what you already know, plus all the data we can provide you with, to as many people as possible who say they want to do something to unify our nation. And as you travel from state to state and you're meeting key people, key leaders, we're believing God you will introduce them to the Kingdom Group. And we're glad to meet with these people and help them. Let's try this. Let's bring people together around a meal and promote unity. I believe it's going to happen. I believe this is a God thing, Carlin. I believe that's why God has brought us together. And let's face it, you are already doing the Erase Race initiative, the work you're doing, and God saw fit to bring us together. I believe we're going to make a powerful, powerful team.
And so when I go out, who am I talking to? Am I grabbing random people, or am I talking to churches, businesses? Who am I talking to?
All of the above. I believe that you're going to spend time talking to some ministry or church leaders, but we have seen a great amount of success with business owners, people of the community, even community activists or leaders in the community who can provide a venue, a very safe place for people to come together and have dialogue, dynamic dialogue, dialogue that is meaningful and is effective. So you're going to be talking to, I pray, all the way up to the political leaders. As we're talking to some political leaders, we're talking to everybody who will listen, because we all have this problem that we are concerned about.
Great, right? Well, America, you can stand by because I've got Elmo behind me. I'll be out there and I'll be talking to everybody, as he said, and I look forward to that. So, in the last minute, Elmo, I want you to give them all of your website, your connection information, because you got a lot of things going on. You're the only guy I know who's busier than I am. But so give them all your contact info and everything that they need, so they can go back and watch this broadcast and get that information about you.
Very good. What we want to encourage people to do is learn about who we are, get more information about what we're doing, how we do it. You can go to kingdomgroup.co. That's our website, not com, but kingdomgroup.co. And from there, you can actually take a tour, and you'll come upon pages such as Building the Bridge podcast. That's a bi-monthly production that we produce, and we're able to bring in guests such as Carlin, Charleston, and E.R.A.S.E and others who are bridge builders with us. We are really thankful for that. We ask you to sign up for our bi-monthly newsletter. It's called Kingdom Nuggets. It's where I basically do an event newspaper that let people know what we're doing, and also give a little commentary. Those are the main places I would share with you. As you go to those, you will find out that we actually have connections on all of the social media platforms, and I can't even remember all of them, but they're there. So go to the website, connect yourself with us, and we'd love to continue and develop a relationship with you.
Outstanding. Great, Elmo. And when I go out there and I'm promoting Kingdom Group and the Unity Breakfast, don't worry, I'll be the one to shake you down for the money because we are going to need funding. And what we're looking for great people who want to partner with us because we understand that this is what it's going to take. And so I want to thank Elmo for being my guest today. If there's any information you need, of course, you can always contact me. You can at Edge Radio Network. You can go to the site and check this program out again. You can check it on our Facebook page at E.R.A.S.E. And I want to thank Elmo, and it's been a great time to talk about unity because unity is what we're going to need as we go forward on this election day. Thanks again, Elmo. And this has been Talk About Unity. We want to thank you all for being here today.
God bless you.
But I have two kind of talks that I do. One is what I call ninja talks.
Yeah.